Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio is set to be arraigned following his arrest in Washington Monday night. Tarrio is suspected of setting fire to a Black Lives Matter banner stolen.
I'm not going to cry about a group of people that don't give a crap about their constituents.
They call themselves Western chauvinists. They're certainly male-dominated.
And this right here shows you the power when we, the right wing, unite.
Leader of the Proud Boys makes a stunning revelation.
I am a Western chauvinist who refuses to apologize for creating the modern world.
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
Breathe fire like a dragon killing demons. Go hard, yeah, we gotta seize the day. Hellfire raining down upon my people. Like we're gonna bring the evil. We here today. We all been lost, we all been cold. Everyone rise to our brethren code. We got your back, we all below. Let's all rise to the brethren.
But in no other nation do people enjoy greater freedom, opportunity, and prosperity than here in the United States of America.
USA! 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 USA!
Do you condemn those people? Can you say that right now?
Okay, I can't say that because I think
Why not?
condemn is a very strong word, and I think it's a little bit too strong. Because I'm the head of the organization, and I know exactly what we planned and what we didn't plan, and we did not coordinate to assault the Capitol.
Enrique Tarrio is the Proud Boys' current leader. And over the past 4 years, he's seen the group grow from a few guys in a bar to thousands of members across the United States.
Right now, the most important thing that we have going for us is that we all share the same belief. The belief that we should put America first. America first. America first. Who's safe? Who's safe? We're all Proud Boys. We're all Proud Boys.
You know, I usually start my show, with presenting our new guests, but what's funny is I've had this intro for about a little over 5 years for my podcast, and my next guest actually within that intro has a lot to do with what happened, and we're going to be talking about some of the things that happened during that intro with that interview with CNN and some of the things that the news stated in the beginning of that intro. And most of those scenes were shot in DC. That's why it's a great privilege to have my next guest on. He is a 23-year veteran for the Metropolitan Police Department. He was the intelligence commander for the Metropolitan Police Department, and he's a decorated Air Force veteran. And his name is Lieutenant Shane Lamond. This man has been railroaded by the Justice Department for things that we will be explaining on this show. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in our guest, Shane. Good to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Enrique. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we have you on the show because your story, a lot of people know your story, but I think a lot of people don't know the depth of the story. So I kind of want to start by asking you a couple questions. So give me, I've said these things, these 23 years, Intel commander, decorated Air Force veteran. Give me a brief on your career as a Metropolitan Police officer.
Yeah, so like you said, I spent 23 years on the police department. I did 4 years as a patrol officer. I had a brief stint as a crime scene technician before getting promoted to sergeant. I spent 4 years as a patrol sergeant, then got promoted to lieutenant. I spent 8 years as a patrol lieutenant, uniform patrol, before getting transferred to the intelligence branch. And I did 5 years at the intelligence branch, ending up commanding it once my boss retired.
So let me ask you, as far as the intelligence branch, what did you do as an intelligence commander? Did you do like 1A demonstrations and stuff like that? Was that your focus? Right.
Yes, we had a number of different missions, but one of our primary missions was to collect intelligence on any threats, security issues, and like criminal activity planned for upcoming First Amendment events. and also to monitor those First Amendment demonstrations for any type of criminal activity being planned or committed during the event.
So if you have two groups that are protesting each other, you want to be able to take a look at what both groups are doing, and then specifically like what we saw in DC throughout from 2016 forward, we did see multiple groups, protesters and counter protesting. So what was your job there when you had so many conflicting views?
Right. So my job was to collect the intelligence, just like I mentioned, on any if there are any conflicts between those groups, where both groups are planning on staging, if they're planning on marching, and I would provide that information to our Special Operations Division, which is the unit responsible for having the civil disturbance unit guys, all the uniform officers on like bikes. But those are the groups of officers who go along with these groups, monitor them, keep them separated, and kind of direct traffic, if you will, provide security for the event. So anybody can exercise their First Amendment rights in a peaceful manner. Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we were put in contact, because we were having an event. I believe it was a 4th of July event. We had it on July 3rd, and I believe maybe you could correct me here. 2019.
That is correct. Yeah, it was the demand free speech event.
Yeah, and what was the nature of our conversations at that point? What were we communicating at that event when because I was in privately, obviously I'm not a police officer, but I was providing security for the event, and I was an actual speaker. So at what would you tell the public what we communicated in that at that event?
Right. So whenever there's a major event in DC, we normally reach out to the organizers, and I can't remember what her name is offhand, but the organizer,
Adriana.
Yes, that's exactly who it was. We had reached out to her, and one of my questions for any group is, are you aware of any threats? She had told me that the Proud Boys received some social media threats, and she put me in contact with you so I could get whatever medium, whatever the threat was, so we could investigate it and see if we can identify the suspects.
So I'm going to ask this question. So I'm going to ask this question for this event, and I'm just going to skip forward with the rest of this. But did you see our relationship as a friend, like if we were like some type of buddies or something?
No, not at all. It was professional. It was all about these First Amendment demonstrations.
Okay, and then our communications in there, because I did come to DC multiple times, and I would. When I would either have an event or a small, like a bigger event, like one of those outdoor events or indoor events, we also communicated, and it was on the basis of keeping everybody safe. Right?
Exactly.
Because I do respect, obviously, people that disagree with me. I do respect like their ability to practice their First Amendment right. I just don't want to get assaulted, and I don't want anything to happen to them. And we're actually later on in this interview, I want to talk about December 12th, right? Where there was something that changed.
Yes.
I'm sorry, my phone keeps locking. Let's move on to the election season, right? Mm-hmm. Let's start with election night. Do you remember reaching out to you over a stabbing incident that happened in DC that day, where multiple people got stabbed and I got slashed also? Mm-hmm. Do you remember that
yes, I do.
Was there like a friendly thing about that? Were we buddies and chums at that point?
No, not at all. Okay. Not at all. We had been communicating about events, so you reached out to me, and I did go down there to see, what was going on, and if there was any information that I could get that could help us, identify any like ongoing threats or persistent threats.
I mean, a stabbing is pretty threatening, as we see in DC. It seems like it's a normal occurrence even outside of any like 1A situation.
Unfortunately, that's true. Yes.
So, do you know why that case was never solved?
I don't. I wasn't a part of the investigation. That's a totally separate unit. So
Okay.
I don't know if there were any updates or if it was ever solved.
And just off the cuff here, where when you're in the area around the White House, which is where it happened, is there like surveillance? Is there public surveillance systems around that area?
I don't know about public surveillance cameras, but there's got to be numerous like private security cameras.
And the reason why I ask is because we were never provided by the Metropolitan, at least that department that handled that. We were never provided any information on the ongoings of the investigation, even though we've called multiple times, which, whether somebody likes me or doesn't like me as far as January 6th goes, they were able to catch like grandma, that walked in and out of the Capitol, didn't touch any police officers or break anything, and they were, but there was 4 stabbing victims that night, and we never found out anything to this day, obviously. And I think the statute of limitations probably went by a long time ago. So let's go into November 14th at the Million MAGA March. That was the first thing. What did you witness on the streets that day?
As I've said multiple times before, the violence, each event was escalating. Groups and counter groups, or protesters and counter protesters. There was the level of violence between the groups were increasing. Okay. We were doing everything we could to keep the groups separated, and that's one of the reasons why I always reached out to you, and I asked you to reach out to me, because we have all this other crime going on in DC that we have to respond to as well. So we have limited resources, limited number of CDU officers, and knowing where like your group was going to be, where the Proud Boys were going to be, what hotels they were staying at, allowed us to stage those officers near those locations. So we can pick you up as soon as you march, as soon as you go to an event, to try and keep that separation between groups.
So let me ask you a couple things, because besides the on the ground surveillance, there was like social media monitoring and stuff like that. Yes. So what did I do? I don't have the display because I don't know if I could show stuff from my trial, because I don't know if it's under protective order. But would I share my location, my live location with you, so you know where at least my group was?
Yes, you did.
And what was my purpose for doing that?
One, so you could be transparent with us, the police department, with me, so we knew where your group was. And again, that's so if we know where you are, we can provide that separation between you and other groups, as opposed to if we have to hunt around the city trying to figure out where you are, where the counter groups are. It's much easier for us if we know where you are and you share that information to us. Yeah.
So I did that multiple times, and I keep bringing that up because like my number one objective is for my guys to get home safe. It's not to clash. At any point when I was communicating with you, my location, did I ever communicate with you and tell me where Antifa is, so I can go over there, or so I can, do what the media says and go and beat up counter protesters?
No, you never did.
Okay. Was that, and now this is why I asked the social media thing. Did you ever see me communicate? Was that my communications with you a secret to the public? Did I mention, hey, look, I'm coordinating with MPD to make sure everybody's safe? Did you guys see that?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. All right. So I've said this before. On December 12th, there was a different monster than all the other ones. And you did say that things were escalating.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Things were escalating. And I did see, I'm very transparent about this. I think the stand back, stand by comment brought a lot of people into my organization that didn't have time to integrate, and brought a level of aggression that I didn't like. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that on December 12th. And I noticed that with all, like, basically the new guys that came in. And there was something that happened on December 12th. Actually, two things that happened on December 12th that I'd love to talk about. Number one, there were some stabbings that night.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the stabbings, the people who were stabbed were members of the Proud Boys.
Yes, I believe so. That sounds right.
So why was that perpetrator let go of?
Again, I can't speak on that. That's not even one that the Metropolitan Police Department decides. U.S. Attorney's Office, when the arrest is brought to them, they make the decision. So that would be a question for U.S. Attorney's Office.
So here, I mean, I'll tell the public from my end, right? So I believed that night that the aggressor was the person with the knife. I believed for a very long time, all the way up until my trial. I believed that person came in with the intention to start just stabbing people. Well, later on, I find out that somebody that was in the group actually attacked this person. And the reason why he was released, and again, that's not it wasn't your department. So I'm just telling people that are viewers right now. I find out at trial that the reason why that started was because there was a member of mine that initiated contact with this person. So that person was in a self-defense stance. And I guess the video showed it because the law enforcement did check the video that day, but never shared it, for whatever reason. They have their reasons. And I did see a level of aggression from the guys that day that I did not like. And that we'll talk about right now in a second. But there's another occurrence that happened that day. A Black Lives Matter banner was burned, right? Which is part of the intro. And most of those nights that are part of the intro, there was also you saw me at the Washington Monument marching down the streets of DC. And in one of those shots, you see one of those Black Lives Matter banners, people stepping on it and stuff like that. We had a conversation. And here I'm going to touch on the stabbings. Not just the stabbings, the level of aggression. Did I communicate with you and tell you that I didn't like the level of aggression from my guys that day?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Did you see that I was worried moving forward?
Yes. Mm-hmm. In fact, we had that exact conversation. I think I even told you it seemed like you were herding cats because certain members of you within your own group were kind of splitting off and wanting to do their own thing.
Yeah. And just again, for the public, we're not a militia. We don't train to march. We don't. So when I wake up in the morning on December 12th and I see about, 2,500 Proud Boys on the ground that day, I had an anxiety attack in the morning, a small one. And then at night, there's actually this cool picture at a night shot where I'm bending a knee on the asphalt and the guys are all around me. And it's a cool, heroic pose, whatever. I'm a showman. I love the pictures. I love the video. But that picture doesn't really show like that. That picture was me having an anxiety attack after 4 of my guys were stabbed. And I had to take a knee because I couldn't take it. So I was worried moving forward, bringing all my guys into DC. And I actually, and I don't know if you know this, but I communicated with my guys. I actually told you first. And I said, look, I'm worried about this. So then I communicated with my guys later on and I told them, look, I'm worried about this because we keep bringing these new guys in and these new guys are showing a level of aggression that I don't like it. So then let's move on to the flag burning. In your capacity as in the 1A stuff, or just as an officer in general, do you see a lot of American flags being burned in the District of Columbia?
Not a lot, but I have seen multiple during my time. Yes.
Have you seen Black Lives Matter banners or flags being burned?
As I recall, I think it was only that night. There are, I think, multiple that night, but it was only that night, to the best of my recollection.
So, do you remember of any case where burning the American flag, the person was arrested for it?
No, I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so the one time that somebody burns a Black Lives Matter banner, flag or banner or whatever it was the only time that you know of that somebody got arrested for burning a flag.
In this capacity, yes.
In this capacity,
yes.
And I'm not saying, look, I admitted my guilt and I said, look, it's wrong because I didn't know. I didn't know that banner came off of a church, for that matter, another person's property. And I've said that millions of times. It's wrong, but I just find it weird that I'm the only one there and the only one that actually got time for a misdemeanor during COVID, which was crazy. So, let's talk about this banner burning, because this is the crux of one of the reasons why I have you on this show.
Mm-hmm.
At any point did let's focus on this portion. I'm going to ask more generally later, but at any portion did I communicate with you that I was going to commit any crimes or commit any acts of violence?
No, you never did.
Okay. Did you ever at any point tell me that there was a warrant out for my arrest?
No, I never did. Okay.
But coming into January 4th, flying into DC, I did know. Do you know of how I knew that I was going to get arrested? Or at least I can't tell you with 100% certainty I knew, but I was at the 95% mark. Did you ever through this case, just like sitting here today, did you ever find out how I knew I was going to get arrested?
No, I think you just put it together. I mean, it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out.
And for the public, I admitted to burning this banner. Not only did I admit it, I did it on a live on this same network. I got called by Miami-Dade Police Department, right? Which is weird. I don't live in DC. So if it's a DC crime, why is Miami-Dade Police calling me? Which leads me to believe that the investigation is bigger than what it is. Second, I had two reporters, one from Reuters and one from the USA Today, that had sources within law enforcement that told me, hey, you're probably going to get picked up. Do you have any comments? And I know that these two have sources within. So I start piecing together. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to probably get arrested. There's a very high chance I'm going to get arrested. Did I think I was going to get arrested at the airport? Absolutely not. I thought I was going to get arrested and I was going to make a show out of it. I was going to make a scene out of it because I thought I was going to get arrested while I was speaking on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
So I'm going to ask another question about January 6th. And I don't want to stick around January 6th too much because I do want to talk about your case. So on January 6th, did you at any point think, how about this? I'm going to start off like this. Was when I would message you and tell you, hey, I'm going to be in town. Did you think that it would be any different on January 6th, that I wasn't going to call you and I wasn't going to tell you my whereabouts and my locations?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. And there is, do you agree in your relationship with me, did I ever show you that I'm a little bit of a showman? You know, when
yes, that is definitely true.
Did I enjoy getting walked down the street with a row of bike cops?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. So
it's a great photo op, and
it is. But it also, the main objective is to keep my guys safe. If
Right.
there's law enforcement around, it's less likely that somebody's going to attack us, and it's also less likely that my guys will do something stupid.
Right. I want to say you are correct in saying that your goal was to keep your guys safe. Our goal was to keep everybody safe. So yes. I want to put that on the record, but that is correct.
So I just want to picture this, and you don't have to comment on this, but can you imagine on January 6th if I weren't arrested and I wasn't banned because the judge banned me from being in DC? Can you imagine a group of people trying to storm the Capitol with a giant group of bicycle police, like escorting them everywhere down DC?
Well, I can't, but the groups were going to the Capitol in like different groups. They were all broken up. So
okay,
law enforcement wasn't escorting like a solid group or a specific group.
So you lost contact, obviously, with me because I didn't have a phone and I couldn't update you on the movement of the guys. And I didn't think it was at first. I really didn't think it was necessary because all we were planning on actually doing was going to speak at events and get our picture taken. We weren't planning to go to the Capitol. So at that point, I'm like, you know what? I don't need to worry about the guys. You know, whatever. I've listened to Trump speak a million times. I don't have nothing to worry about. So let's go into the second. Let's fast forward again. Let's jump into the DeLorean and move forward in time. My arrest and my trial. At any point, did my attorney reach out to you so you could testify after I got arrested?
Yes, he did.
So what was your answer? What was your answer to them when we asked for you to be a witness?
I actually wanted to, just because I'm a law enforcement officer. I was a witness to our interactions, and there was nothing improper about it, so I was willing to. However, I will say that I was scared because at that time when your attorney reached out, I had already been notified that I was under investigation myself for conversations. And I relayed that to my attorney, and my attorney was the one who said no.
Okay. But something else happened in between there. So after I put you, because this was months before trial, and we were moving forward with trial, and we had to give the government and the judge our list of witnesses, because we kept that close to our chest because we didn't want anybody to know who was our witnesses, because it's trial strategy,
right?
And I want to be clear, just because I was calling you, and again, this is for the public, just because I was calling you as a witness doesn't mean that you were going to testify everything in favor of me, right? Like, right. What's a police officer? Well, anybody that's a witness, but specifically a police officer, what's their goal when they get on the stand? What's not goal, but what's their
to tell the truth? Yeah,
to tell the truth, right? So, you were my star witness, because who better to show that I didn't plan, orchestrate a seditious conspiracy than a law enforcement officer that I communicated with, shared my location, and tried to keep the peace between, anybody that goes to DC.
Right.
So at that point when we posted it, you were still ready to witness. Did anybody reach out to your attorney or you after I put you up on the witness list?
Nobody reached out to me. My attorney, I don't know who reached out, if anybody reached out to my attorney, but nobody reached out to me directly.
Okay. But you weren't, did you feel intimidated because of the government? And was that the reason why you didn't testify in the case?
Well, absolutely. Because anything that I would have testified to you could have been used against me in my own investigation. So yes.
Okay. if you had testified, what were your thoughts on what my personal plans were for that day? Just out of just communication and just out of history, just period. Like what my plans that day, what would have been my plans that day?
I think your plans would have been just like the prior events. I mean, you provided me with the same information that you always did. You expressed, like you said, your concern about just, violence from counter groups, but you never said anything remotely, related to like a takeover of the Capitol or an assault on the Capitol or any other assault. It was a normal First Amendment event that you've done in the past.
Did you see that I took steps, right? And now moving forward, because you were able to see my communications and stuff like that. Did you see that I took steps to prevent a repeat of December 12th?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what was I trying to prevent?
From any type of violence or assaults, on your people, other people. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was kind of like a list of rules that you put down saying that you didn't want, any type of violence, no weapons, things of that nature. You just wanted everything to be peaceful and lawful.
I'm going to close out Act 2 with this question again. Did I ever tell you that I wanted to commit at any point, that I wanted to commit crimes or acts of violence? Or did you ever feel like this was the case without me having to tell you directly?
No, absolutely not. Never.
Okay.
That had never come up without any of our conversations. I never got that impression. And I mean, frankly, all of our communications, I always felt that you were being, forthright and truthful and giving me information.
And and here, like, I want to tell you directly, like, I know that you're a law enforcement officer and I know what your job is. I know that you can't play favorites. You understand? Mm-hmm. So like, I did understand that relationship was a one-way relationship where I would just tell you, this is a situation, this is where I'm at. At no point did I try to pull information off you, because there's no information to pull. I'm just trying to keep my guys safe.
Right.
That's it. That's like my only goal in that. And I know that your goals surpass that. Your goals are supposed to be keep everybody safe.
Everybody's safe. Exactly.
So I knew that if my guys were to act aggressively and you had to do your job and put somebody in handcuffs, then I'd have to be okay with it.
Right.
Because you should, as law enforcement, you should have no favor. People.
I agree. I do want to point out too, it even came up in my trial, and we may get to it, later, but I was asked and accused of being too chummy with you.
Yeah.
You at no point had any obligation, like you just mentioned, you had no obligation to provide me any of that information, where you guys were staying, where you guys were planning on marching or anything. You were a First Amendment individual. You weren't a criminal working off, crime with me. You were a First Amendment individual. So you didn't have to provide me with any of that. And as things escalated, and at one point, obviously I knew that you were going to be arrested for the banner burning, and I was trying to keep your trust. But even then, with my own police department going after you and getting an arrest warrant for you, you were still communicating with me and providing me with that information.
Even after January 6th, because I did
have. Go ahead.
There was some communications after January 6th between me and you.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had somebody that was with me, and they told me, hey, maybe I'm on a list, and I reached out and I'm like, hey, look, I have this person, and this person wants to know if she has to turn herself in. I gave you her name and you had said no. Later on, obviously, they did put her on a list much later on. So I did communicate with you even after the fact, because again, I knew what your job was. And I've said this on this show. I've said it on my live show many times. On January 6th, I cannot tell you that I support people. I support the fact that people put hands on police officers and broke shit and did all of that. You know, I'm not, I said it that same night. I said it live on TV. I go, look, I can't support what happened, you know, that what individuals acts that day. And then subsequently we were pardoned. And a lot of people, you know, I championed for pardons for all, for 1,600 people. And I didn't pardon. People are like, oh, well, you advocated for the pardoning of these violent people. I don't deny that there were violent people there on January 6th. The reason why I'm advocating for a pardon wasn't because of their actions. It was because of the process, you know, and the process was unfair and the sentencing was unfair. Just like I think that the process for you and the sentencing of you, which we're going to get into now, is unfair because it was motivated to stop you from testifying. I believe that I was one that signed, and I feel horrible about it because I feel like I'm the one, it's my fault. Because if I wouldn't have put you on the witness list, I'm almost certain, almost 100% certainty that they wouldn't have come after you.
That's probably true.
So now let's talk about you. Let's talk about your case. We talked about our relationship and the fake chumminess that they wanted to portray, like there was like some. So we got that out of the way. What happened? And I guess we've already talked about you got arrested for this, but what happened after my conviction? What was the date of your arrest?
It was the 19th of May, 2023.
Okay, so here's what's funny. Here's what's funny to me. When did they start seeing an investigation into you, into those communications?
I first found out about it in June of 2021.
2021.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me why. I get convicted on March 4th. I'm sorry, May 4th. Mm-hmm. May the 4th be with you. I always remember that now because I'm a Star Wars nerd. And then just a couple, like 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks later, they come and pick you up. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't think that was a coincidence.
I don't think so either.
And explain to me what your arrest was like on that day or that week or whatever.
Oh, it was absolutely awful. I found out I got a call from my attorney the afternoon of May 18th. It was a Thursday. He told me that he had just been contacted by, I believe it was the FBI, that a grand jury had just indicted me and issued an arrest warrant for me, and told me
they just indicted you. Do you know the day of the indictment?
I believe it was the same day. They did it all the same day.
Okay.
And he told me that I needed to turn myself in the next day, which was Friday, May 19th.
Okay.
I asked them through my attorney, I said, is there any way we can hold off until Monday or even Saturday? Because my daughter's high school graduation was that Friday, the 19th of May. And they said, no. They said, I either turn myself in Friday, May 19th, or they're going to send the U.S. Marshals to pick me up. And this is a 23-year law enforcement veteran who's lived in this area for 20 plus years, not a flight risk, no prior criminal history. But they wanted to make it a point, and they were made aware that my daughter's graduation was that day. And they said, no, turn yourself in.
Lieutenant, do you feel targeted?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you decided to go to trial. Why did you decide to go to trial? Why did you take a plea deal?
Because all the things they were, the 4 counts that they were accusing me of, I didn't commit any of those. I was doing my job. I maintained that from the beginning. I maintain that now. And I wasn't going to plea to something that I didn't do.
So I'm going to ask you this question. I want to also, you don't have to answer it. Because you're definitely going to go through an appeals process.
Yes.
Do you believe that the trial was fair and impartial?
In hindsight, no, I don't.
Okay. What was the outcome of that trial?
I was found guilty by the judge of all 4 counts against me.
And did you have witnesses that testified on your behalf?
Yes, I had 2.
Oh, 2. Who were those 2?
The 2 speaking on the show right now, you and me.
Oh, that's right. You did take the stand.
I did take the stand.
Okay. When you feel, I unfortunately I couldn't take the stand on my own case because we felt it was trial strategy, and we felt like we covered all of our bases on there. And they also there was this unfair thing where they wanted to bring up like my tweets from like 2016. So I didn't want to prejudice the jury. And you know, I'm a very loud and outspoken person. And my jury was every member but 2 of my jury, and one of them was an alternate, attended either a Black Lives Matter event in DC or attended like a women's march. And you know, obviously I'm on the right side of the political spectrum, so I decided not to testify. But in your case, I don't know if you know this, but I reached out to my attorney in February of, I'd like to say that was 23. And I said, hey, get in contact with Shane's attorney again. If he's, because I saw an article that you were going to trial. And I'm like, tell him that if he needs me to testify, I will, which was hell, by the way. To go testify for you was, they put me through hell. Yeah. They moved me through a million places, handcuffed me for 26 hours one time with, you're familiar with box cuffs?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I was in box cuffs for 26 hours. Is there this question? Is there a regulation, at least on the metropolitan level or at a federal level, on how long you could keep an inmate in box cuffs?
No, I don't remember specifically. I want to say that within the DC Police Department, they were not authorized to be used, but I couldn't tell you about the federal level.
So wait, now I want to roll back really quick. So when I was arrested on January 4th, in your experience in law enforcement, do they need such a big crew to come get a misdemeanant? Do they usually, is that like a usual thing?
I personally would think not. However, that also wasn't within my unit. I believe it was the criminal apprehension unit that picked you up. So their procedures, I've never been a part of that unit, so I couldn't say.
Okay. All right. So, did you go to jury trial or a bench trial?
No, I elected for a bench trial.
What was the outcome of that trial?
I was found guilty of all 4 of the charges against me. Yes.
Okay. I'm not going to speak as to the judge. But I will tell you, I believe what happened to you wasn't just. I believe you were targeted because you wanted to testify in my defense, not in my defense, but in the truth. And I think that, I think justice has to come not only from our Article 3 in our Constitution, but from Article 2, and we'll get to that in a second. What does this cost you?
It's cost me everything. It's cost me my dream career, all of my finances. I had to cash in my entire retirement so I could pay my lawyer. It's cost me all of my colleagues who I used to provide information for. And I mean, as intelligence commander for, one of the major metropolitan police departments in the US, I had contacts around the world. Many of them who won't speak to me anymore because they're even afraid. I had other members of the police department who were afraid to even speak to me because they were pulled in by the FBI. Okay. And they were threatened, for lack of a better word. So I've lost everything. My family has been threatened. I've received threats all from this.
Yeah. I'm obviously I'm an avid Twitter user and I have seen some rhetoric, but I have seen a lot of support. I have seen a lot of support for what you went through, because obviously when you go to trial, like all the information comes out and the public gets to see everything, the public trial thing. I'm actually, what's crazy to me is that these trials aren't like televised, or you can't just join in on Zoom and see them, which I think is an affront to being able to have that transparency for the public to see.
Well, you bring up a very good point too, because in the beginning, when I was first suspended from the police department and had my police powers revoked, Chief Conti had to make a statement because it was public at that point. And immediately after that, because I couldn't, of course, give my version of the events, I couldn't tell my story. So all the threats and the rhetoric was against me. All the way up through beginning of my trial. And even then it was, awful, because the government came out the gate swinging, calling me a Proud Boy sympathizer and what was it? And a double agent.
Yes.
The media snatched that up and ran with it. And I received, calls, threats, calling me a terrorist and all this other stuff. But when you and I testified, I noticed there was a shift in a lot of that online rhetoric, and people realized that I was doing my job. We weren't hiding anything. So there's a big shift.
It sounds like the plot of a Tom Clancy movie. So somehow I orchestrated the assault on the Capitol, but somehow, I, instead of bringing my 2,500 Proud Boys that were there on December 12th, I only brought like 30 or 40 of them. If I wanted to assault the Capitol, it would probably be better if I had 2,500 or more troops on the ground. I'm using air quotes. I don't think we're going to publish this on audio, but I'm using air quotes on that. And then the fact that I used a 23-year veteran, right, intelligence commander, as I turned him into a double agent. It seems like this work of fiction that could never. You couldn't write a better book.
Exactly. And what did you get out of it? Because you admitted to burning the banner from the start.
Yes.
You were arrested for it. You didn't run. So you got nothing from me, and you had nothing to gain from.
Yeah. No. And then another thing is, like, there was a point for me that I was kind of happy. I was like, oh, thank God that judge kicked me out of DC. I could never be arrested for January 6th if I wasn't there. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
Boy.
I was surprised as well. Because nothing you ever told me. But, and you and I even had a conversation, like you said, shortly after January 6th, where you told me that you think you could have stopped it if you were there. And I still, to this day, don't think so. But that's actually, it's good for you, because I don't think you could have stopped it, because you didn't plan it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you planned it, maybe you could have stopped it, but
yeah. And I said it in a way where, my guys always like to be in the front,
Yeah.
And we had issues like that. I don't think that you were on scene there, but another, I guess, important piece of the puzzle has, even with sharing information, there was times where there was police blocking off certain portions of the road, and we would walk into them,
right, divert.
And I don't know if you've been there, where I make sure that my guys are at least like 10 to 15 feet away from that front line of the police officers.
Yes.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, I would do that almost every time. Were my guys rowdy? I don't think nobody disagrees with that. I don't think like my own guys don't disagree with that. Are my guys rowdy? Are they loud? I didn't like what happened on December 12th. I do push that on bad recruiting at that time. Thankfully, most of those people are gone, and most of the people after January 6th tuck-tailed and ran from the organization. But back to it, this cost you a lot.
Yes.
And we talked about, I don't think justice was served there. If justice would have been served, you would have never been arrested to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So the only person in the world that can right this wrong and right the wrongs of, I don't want to get political, but it was the previous administration that put me in and put you in. But I think the Article 2 states that the President of the United States has the ability to pardon. And we've seen him use that pardon a little different than most people. He's used that power of pardon, not to just pardon somebody, but to correct the wrongs of that have the injustices.
Right.
So I want to ask you, have you filled out a pardon petition or an application?
Yes, I did submit a pardon application to the U.S. Pardon Attorney's Office, Ed Martin.
So I'm going to be, when I play this tonight, I'm going to be tagging Ed Martin, and hopefully he gets to see this, and hopefully, when do you have to, so let's start with, let's go back a second.
Mm-hmm.
So you got found guilty.
Yes.
You got found guilty on all counts.
December 23rd, 2024.
December 23rd. And you were sentenced recently.
Yes, June 6th. I was sentenced to 18 months incarceration, followed by 18 months of supervised release.
Have they ever switched to prosecutors in your case?
No, it was always that.
It's always been, it's a Biden holdover.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what did the government want you to do? How much time did the government want you to do?
Government was asking for 48 months incarceration.
48 months. That's 4 years.
4 years.
So I was taking a look. I attended your sentencing. I stayed quiet. However hard that was for me to stay quiet. I'm not a quiet person. So I stayed quiet through that whole process. So I was kind of surprised that they gave you 18 months, but it's 18 months too much. What happened to you was a travesty and justice. I guess I could speak from experience here. How do you feel about going to prison for a crime you didn't commit? And if you don't receive a pardon for it?
It's absolutely devastating. I mean, for one, like you said, I've maintained my innocence from the beginning. I was simply doing my job. I could have sat on my hands, done nothing. I wouldn't be in this boat. But I'm also worried as a former law enforcement officer. Law enforcement officers aren't regarded highly in prison or in incarceration. And on top of that, I'm the primary caregiver for my elderly mother, who already suffers from multiple health issues. And this whole ordeal has made it so much worse. It has given her even more medical problems.
How is she taking this?
Oh, I mean, she's devastated as well. Devastated. Her health wasn't even good enough to attend my court hearings. And she doesn't even know what she's going to do, because she's basically on her own without me.
Would you ever take a job in law enforcement again?
I don't think so. It's crazy, because I've thought about it a lot, but 23 years law enforcement experience. I always believed in the system, and going through it now, I have a totally different perspective. It has always thought, right or wrong, black and white. And as you know, as many other people now know, I mean, it's not.
Were you naive like me and thought the system works, and I'm going to go to trial, and I'm going to prove my innocence?
Yes.
And then you were like me, I believe, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like me, I was dumbfounded
Yes.
I was like, how I didn't even know how trial works. You know, I was, you grew up watching like Court TV and Judge Judy, and you think that it works one way, and their ability to bring things. So in my case, which relates to your case in a way, the judge actually made it relate a lot in a way, because the burning of the Black Lives Matter banner had nothing to do with January 6th. Right. The judge allowed that evidence that I burned the banner, which again has nothing to do with January 6th, and allowed it to come in. And I was like, how is this possible? And how is it possible that they could bring this in and then allow tweets from 2017? And then when we wanted to bring something in, absolutely not. You cannot do this. You know how hard it was. So one of the things that we're trial strategy was bring you as a star witness, was to bring up those messages in between us. We wanted to show them. The government was trying to, this is what's crazy. The same government that that persecuted you was trying to hide those messages from my jury. You know, they're like, no, you can't show this. You can't show these messages. It shows that he was, sharing his live location. That's going to prejudice the jury. That's the point of a defense argument, to prejudice a jury, to be like, hey, look, he didn't do it. So after forcing it, we were allowed to bring in some of the messages. We couldn't even bring all of them, and they all showed the same thing. It wasn't a chummy relationship. I think this is the chummiest I've been with you. Right? This conversation that we're having here. Other than that, you were doing your job. I was doing mine.
Right.
So let's say, and here I'm going to kind of close out. I'm going to actually give you the microphone after I ask you this. If I'm going to ask it in two different people. If Ed Martin was listening to this, what would you tell him?
I would tell him that my case is 100% politically motivated. It is a persecution of a decorated law enforcement official doing his job. I was investigated and persecuted for collecting critical information from a valuable source, who is you, the leader of the Proud Boys. Doesn't get any better than that. In order to keep the protesters, counter-protesters, citizens of DC, and law enforcement all safe during these periods of increasing violence and unrest. When President Trump took office, he vowed to correct the injustices committed by the Biden area Department of Justice. That's why he created the weaponization working group led by Ed Martin, who's also the U.S. pardon attorney. So I'm just praying that both Ed Martin and President Trump will take swift action to correct this injustice before my freedom's taken away and have to turn myself in on August the 5th.
Well, you covered Trump here, because I was going to ask you what you said to Trump. So to the public, to the members of the public, what would you say to the members of the public right now, to our audience, about what happened to you and, how they can help?
I think it's what happened to everybody. It's not just me. And I feel bad because I spent maybe 10 hours in jail when I was first arrested, whereas, many others have spent days, weeks, months, even years in jail. So I'm first of all, I'm thankful that I can get my side of the story out, because the one-sided story that was painted by the prosecution was detrimental to everything I stood for. And they cherry picked and they picked and twisted whatever they could to use against me, when all I was trying to do was do my job to keep everybody safe. Not only the Proud Boys, not Antifa and Black Lives Matter, everybody. I wanted everybody to be safe and able to exercise their lawful First Amendment rights. So I just hope that the public puts all this together, hears the full stories, the full pictures of everybody, and urges the government to do the right thing for everybody.
I asked the public, when I air this tonight, in the comment section, I'm going to put in the petition. You guys have a petition going for, and I'll tag the U.S. pardon attorney and the U.S. weaponization attorney. in there, and I ask you guys to go ahead and sign and share this out, and tag Ed Martin in the comments on this stream, and try and see if we can get some justice for what happened. Don't tag him in the live chat. I know you guys are in the live chat. Obviously, this is pre-recorded, so I'm not gonna see the live chat. Go ahead under the tweet and tag Ed Martin, and make sure that he listens to this message, and make sure you tag the President of the United States, because I think it's really important that, look, criminals deserve time, and I'm a person that has always championed for criminal justice reform. For this very matter, we see Shane, 23 years, 23-year veteran, a decorated Air Force veteran, and he's sitting here, and he's a caretaker for his family, and they want to put him in prison, and Shane, I want to apologize. I should have thought, and not to put you on there, because I knew, I should have thought that it was. So I feel like this is on me. You are the example of community policing, and you said that you would never get into law enforcement. I'd say, if this pardon comes your way or after, I think you should run for sheriff. Not just run one department, run the whole thing. Find a sheriff's department. Miami-Dade Sheriff's Department is actually going to hold elections. Also, we live in the best state in the union. Sorry to you people in Virginia. But Shane, I appreciate you for coming on the show. For those watching, please retweet. Like I said, please tag Ed Martin and the President of the United States under in the comments, and let's correct the injustice that has happened here. We've already seen the correction of injustice happen to 1,600 individuals plus. But Shane Lamond needs a pardon. All right, Shane, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anywhere, any website or anything that people could do to support you?
My sister created a change.org petition just for my pardon as well. So if I can send that link to you and you can share it on the podcast, that'd be great.
Also, I think that you should start a Give, Send, and Go. See if we could help you financially also. Okay.
I see.
All right.
If I may, I've got two things that I'd like to say. First of all, you apologized. I really appreciate that. I don't want you to apologize, because there's nothing for you to apologize for. I wanted to, like I said earlier in this interview, I wanted to testify because I was doing my job. Neither one of us was doing anything wrong. I was fully willing to testify for you because neither one of us did anything wrong. And I wanted to tell the truth, because you, just like everybody else, deserves a defense, and you deserve to have me testify. So you have absolutely nothing to apologize for. And I've asked myself, and I've been asked by other people multiple times, if I could go back and do this over again, would I? And the answer is yes, I would. I may have done things differently, or better, I should say, memorializing our messages, but I wouldn't, because I think that we really did save a lot of people. We reduced a lot of the violence by you communicating, by us communicating and giving me all the information that you did.
I actually want to touch on that. I had a very large group of people in DC that day. The protesters, we outnumbered the protesters by a large amount. It would be very irresponsible of me to march those protesters into Antifa or BLM, no matter how much I disagree with them. It would be horrible if I got 2,500 people behind me and I'm like, let's go get these 500 people. It would be super irresponsible of me, and I would never put anybody in that situation. And that's the main reason why I communicated with you. Again, I say that you are an example of what community policing should be, Shane. And I think that you should maybe rethink that and be the sheriff of something. I keep trying to push you on that. But I appreciate you coming on the show. Is there anything else that you want to add?
No, that's it. Just thank you. And I would like to thank, everybody who's shown support for me and supported me and advocating for my pardon too. The support that both I and my family have received from complete strangers, just who have listened to these interviews and sat through my trial, has been incredible. So I want to thank all of them for that.
Thanks, Shane. And then Shane, just stay in after the outro, because I need to be able to upload. Okay. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for watching. This is episode 1 of season 2 of the NBLE live podcast, even though this one wasn't live. But I do have a special guest on the next episode, and hopefully we could have Shane back, hopefully as a pardoned individual. And you'll probably get something that I didn't get, is a personally signed pardon from the President of the United States. 1,600 signatures was a little bit too much, so he did it in 4 pages for all of us. But thank you again, Shane, for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio is set to be arraigned following his arrest in Washington Monday night. Tarrio is suspected of setting fire to a Black Lives Matter banner stolen.
I'm not going to cry about a group of people that don't give a crap about their constituents.
They call themselves Western chauvinists. They're certainly male-dominated.
And this right here shows you the power when we, the right wing, unite.
Leader of the Proud Boys makes a stunning revelation.
I am a Western chauvinist who refuses to apologize for creating the modern world.
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
Breathe fire like a dragon killing demons. Go hard, yeah, we gotta seize the day. Hellfire raining down upon my people. We're gonna bring the heat. We're bury it today. We all been lost, we all been cold. Everyone rise to our brethren call. We got your back, we all been low. Let's all rise to the brethren.
But in no other nation do people enjoy greater freedom, opportunity, and prosperity than here in the United States of America.
USA! 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 USA!
Do you condemn those people? Can you say that right now?
Okay, I can't say that because I think
Why not?
condemn is a very strong word, and I think it's a little bit too strong. Because I'm the head of the organization, and I know exactly what we planned and what we didn't plan, and we did not coordinate to assault the Capitol.
Enrique Tarrio is the Proud Boys' current leader. And over the past 4 years, he's seen the group grow from a few guys in a bar to thousands of members across the United States.
Right now, the most important thing that we have going for us is that we all share the same belief. The belief that we should put America first. America first. America first. We're all Proud Boys. We're all Proud Boys.